So Putin said Ukraine is hanging by a thread. If Western aid to Kiev stops, so will the war. He said it wouldn't last a week. And the comments may hit a nerve because the US has halted more funding to Ukraine. Kiev's biggest backer is not officially allowed to send more aid for the next 40-odd days at least. No American aid. Does this mean Putin's predictions will come true? Well, Biden and his European allies say they won't. They say that nothing will change in their support for Ukraine. But Zelensky will be nervous. And he's not the only one who's nervous. On the other side of the world, someone else is watching all of this very closely. Taiwan. Taiwan's situation mirrors that of Ukraine. And America's domestic politics blocking funds will have raised alarms there. It throws up the question, can Taiwan rely on America if China invades? Here's our report.
If one just stops it, it will all die in a week. The same applies to the defense system. Just imagine, the aid stops tomorrow. It will live only for a week, when they run out of ammo.
So, the situation with the United States is dangerous.
It does worry me, but I know there are a majority of members of the House and Senate in both parties who have said that they support funding Ukraine. With your, I'm going to be announcing very shortly a major speech I'm going to make on this issue and why it's critically important for the United States and our allies that we keep our commitment.
That is the latest round of developments in the Ukraine war in a nutshell. Putin says Ukraine won't last a week without aid. Zelensky is worried about the political situation in the US. And Biden is scrambling to find new ways to fund Kyiv. The US president is preparing a big speech to convince his country to send more money. He's also looking at alternative means of funding, like using State Department grants. American officials reportedly think that Ukraine will falter if it doesn't get aid in a few weeks. It's a precarious situation, and how this plays out may affect more than just Ukraine's future. In the Pacific, another state with a dangerous neighbor is keenly watching all this unfold: Taiwan.
When the war started, many people, just like the people here in Taiwan, are looking at the war taking place in front of them. They are watching the videos of the war destructions and atrocities of this democracy called Ukraine. And then they look around and say, where is the next possible target of an authoritarian expansionism? And then they realize that Taiwan might be the next one. And they look at the Chinese track record of threatening Taiwan.
Taiwan is self-governed, and it wants to stay that way. China, however, wants the island in its grasp. In recent years, it has become increasingly aggressive around the Taiwan Strait. Beijing also refuses to rule out a military invasion to achieve what it calls reunification. So for Taiwan, the war in Ukraine is of great interest. It's a course on how to repel a larger, more powerful aggressor, on how to survive in an asymmetric war. Ukraine was supposed to have fallen in days, but it's been about 20 months and Kyiv still stands. It has lost thousands of soldiers and territory along the way, but it continues to try and push Russia out. Even if it hasn't been too successful, Ukraine hasn't given up. The resistance has taught Taiwan a few crucial lessons. It has shown the effectiveness of the so-called porcupine strategy. Allow us to explain. A porcupine is a small and relatively harmless animal, not really a threat to anyone, but its body is covered in defensive quills. The quills make predators think twice before attacking it. Even if a porcupine is attacked, it hopes its quills will damage the attacker so much that the attacker lets go. That's exactly the strategy Ukraine is using, and the one Taiwan wants to perfect as well. Ukraine relies on small drones and handheld weapons to repel Russia, like the American HIMARS and Stingers and Javelins. Kyiv has made good use of these weapons to halt Moscow's advance. These are Ukraine's porcupine quills. But all these arms are from the West. Ukraine is in constant need of Western aid to continue its defense. Without the aid, Ukraine becomes a small, soft, defenseless target, which is why Taiwan will be worried with the American funding freeze. In the event of a war with China, Taiwan will be in the same situation, completely dependent on Western military aid. Taipei doesn't have the capacity to forge more weapons than China. So, without Western and especially American supplies, Taiwan will eventually capitulate. The funding freeze in the US is a political ploy. It's not that the US is out of arms to give, but this proves that the US may not be the most reliable partner. Domestic concerns may handcuff Washington at a crucial hour. And where would that leave Taiwan? Well, as a quillless porcupine before a hungry dragon. If the US expects its allies to stand firm, it cannot keep wavering because of domestic issues. Because its domestic political instability will only serve to weaken Washington's friends abroad.
More than